to the World News at 12 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. My name is Esther Nwachuku, and these are the top stories. Report reveals jihadists trooping into Nigeria from Benin Republic. Ohanaeze lists proofs that the federal government is marginalizing Igbos in Nigeria. Peter Obi slams Nigerian leadership for inaction amidst national crisis. Fulbara insists Rivers is peaceful despite security concerns. And lawmaker blasts Ugo over remarks made. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. The World News at 12 begins with a study uncovering substantial proof indicating that fighters associated with jihadist groups from the Sahel area have made their way into Nigeria via the Benin Republic's border. The Klingendal Institute, a Dutch research organization specializing in the Sahel, unveiled the study on Wednesday. VOP News gathered that this is a call for vigilance and action by concerned stakeholders in Nigeria as the Sahel area has experienced a significant rise in acts of terrorism and radicalism, especially in nations like Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger Republic. The area shared by these countries, known as the Tri-Border region, has been particularly impacted, with terrorist organizations such as Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State increasing their presence and launching assaults on both government personnel and civilians. Moreover, the rise in military takeovers in recent years has exacerbated the situation of insecurity, with countries in West Africa distancing themselves from the US in front and seeking assistance from Russia. Benin, which is adjacent to Nigeria, Niger Republic and Burkina Faso, has also witnessed a rise in violent extremism in its northern areas. That violence has now seeped into Nigeria, the Klingendal Institute disclosed in its report. The report also indicated that banditry is on the rise again in areas held by Jama'at Nusrat ul-Islam wa al-Muslimin, a violent Islamist group. JNM is involved in militant activities and appears to have ties with Nigeria. The report also further exposes that these extremists have established a presence in Kainji Lake National Park in Niger and the state of Kebbi. Also noting that evidence suggests this involves Sahelian extremists, likely JNIM. Another group would be Darussalam, a group linked to Boko Haram, if not fully affiliated, with an open attitude towards bandits. In another development, the Ohanaeze Igbo worldwide has accused the federal government of marginalizing Igbos in Nigeria. The President General of the group, Chief Iwuanyanwu, made the allegation in a statement released yesterday. He listed some of the points to support his allegation to include the reduced number of states in the southeast compared to other regions in the country, list number of ministerial slots even against the federal character principle, the continued incarceration of the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, and destruction of Igbo businesses and property. Iwuanyanwu also praised the leader of Pan-Niger Delta Forum, PANDEF, Chief Edwin Clark, as a respected voice of the region, adding that the elder statesman who has been fighting injustice is mandated to speak for southern leaders. He said, and I quote, "Southeast is the only geopolitical zone in Nigeria that has got only 5 states, whereas other zones have between 6 and 7 states. 48 ministers were appointed by Mr. President. By law of federal character, Southeast should have 8 ministers, but we have only 5 ministers, while some other zones have up to 10. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu has been incarcerated for many years, and every effort to plead his release met with failure, while many other Nigerians arrested and accused of similar offense have all been released. All the efforts to develop railway infrastructure in Nigeria, nothing was done in the southeast, in spite of the fact that our people are traders who travel a lot." According to the Federal Character Commission, the presidency is zoned to rotate between north and south instead of rotating through 6 geopolitical zones. This has made it impossible for Southeast to produce a president when 2 large zones come together to deny the zone the opportunity. End quote. Former presidential candidate and Labour Party stalwart Mr. Peter Obi has sharply criticized the Nigerian government for its response to the country's myriad challenges, asserting that leaders must provide concrete solutions rather than mere acknowledgements of problems. In a pointed statement on social media, Obi lamented the pervasive issues of poverty, insecurity, hunger, education deficits, and healthcare challenges plaguing Nigeria, labeling the nation as the poverty capital of the world. He expressed dismay over leaders' tendencies to compare Nigeria's hardships with those of other nations rather than devising a specific action plan tailored to Nigeria's unique struggles. Peter Obi emphasized the necessity for visionary leadership that not only identifies issues but also charts a clear path forward, likening effective leadership to a pilot reassuring passengers during turbulence. He urged Nigerian leaders to prioritize tangible solutions, stating that only through proactive measures can trust in the country's governance be restored and progress achieved. Meanwhile, the Rivers State Governor Similai Fubara has disclosed that his state was peaceful and safe despite the recent security concern bedeviling the administration of his tenure. He made the remark during a visit to Omuma local government area where 2 security operatives were killed in the political crisis. The governor was there to inspect the progress of work on the 14.6-kilometer Omodo Eberi Road project. According to him, the state is not under siege, contrary to perceptions formed from reports of protest and the police takeover of council secretariats. During the visit, the governor was welcomed by excited residents and led by the caretaker chairman, that is Promise Reginald. The governor's assurance comes on the heels of a directive from the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, for the continuation of the police barricade and local government secretariats in Rivers State to prevent a breakdown of law and order. IGP Egbetokun gave the directive while fielding questions from journalists in Abuja on the sideline of a conference with commissioners of police and other senior officers. He said the police will continue to occupy the secretariat until a court of competent jurisdiction delivers judgment on the local government crisis in Rivers State. Meanwhile, the chairman of the Rivers Caucus in the House of Representatives, Honorable Dunamene Deko, has warned his colleague Ikenga Ugochinyere to stay away from the internal politics of Rivers State. The lawmaker claimed that since the disagreement between Governor Similai Fubara and the lawmakers, Ugochinyere has thrown caution, decorum, and responsible conduct to the wind. Speaking in Port Harcourt on Thursday, Deko fumed that Ugochinyere has become an agent provocateur for a cause he knows nothing about. He alluded that his colleague's prejudicial media statement also constitutes a thoughtless assault on due process and ongoing judicial processes aimed at resolving the disagreement in Rivers State. Deko called on the leadership of the House of Representatives to take urgent steps to discipline and rein in this errant member, in quote. He said, and I quote, his latest sponsored intervention is laden with all the ingredients that characterized all his previous outings: blackmail, half-truth, outright lies, misinformation and disinformation, and malicious propaganda. As our colleague who sits in the House of Representatives today, courtesy of a judgment of a court that is beyond embarrassing, end quote. Let's take a listen to Ugochinyere lambasting the ex-PDP lawmakers in Rivers.
Political party when there was no issue, committed political stupidity when they left their own political party when there was no issue, swore to affidavit before the Federal High Court that they have left PDP as of 11 December 2023. Now struggling to come back and say, oh, they forgot when they were singing on your mandate we shall stand. They forgot with the flag flying, and when the speaker was reading the comment letter on the floor of the State House of Assembly, they forgot about that. Or they forgot about the fact that they swore an affidavit that they are no longer PDP members. Suddenly now they are running all over the place in the night looking for where they can obtain a court order that can say they are now lawmakers and they are still inside PDP. when they say they have left the party. You see the political immaturity and lack of experience, both by those pushing them. You think you can just commit all these political harakiris and then there will be courts that will be willing to give you some papers in the night so that you can now say you're a lawmaker. There's no way they are coming back. If they want to be lawmakers, they can go and remove all those cases in court, and they could conduct the by-election as soon as possible. If they are popular, they can win. If they are not popular, that's the end of the story. So it's the end of the road for them. So if they like, they can sleep in Abuja where they are currently sleep, or hibernate somewhere in their meeting room in a 2-bedroom in Emu.
They appeal.
And that was Ikenga Ugochinyere reacting, speaking on the ex-lawmakers in Rivers State. And of course, you heard some of the Rivers State House of Rep members stating that it is not his business to dabble in the affairs of Rivers. Meanwhile, the death toll from the cholera outbreak in Lagos has risen to 24. VP News gathered that the State Commissioner for Health, Professor Akin Abayomi, disclosed this on his X account today, June 21. He revealed that there are 417 suspected cases of the bacterial disease, with 35 confirmed cases so far. He wrote, Lagos State Cholera Outbreak Situation Report. The situation report indicates 417 suspected cases, 35 confirmed cases, and total of 24 recorded deaths. The graphs depict the distribution of cases across the 20 local government areas in the state. Meanwhile, a severe outbreak of cholera has hit Ijebu in Ogun State, resulting in 1 death and several hospitalizations, amidst a rising toll in Lagos State, where the epidemic has already claimed more than 21 lives and infected over 400 individuals. The situation is alarming local authorities and health professionals as they scramble to contain the spread. In Ijebu, the epicenter of the outbreak in Ogun State, a 62-year-old woman succumbed to the disease, which she reportedly contracted while caring for an infected child who is now hospitalized. You're currently listening to the World News at 12 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. We took a very short break. When we return, we'll head into a news analysis segment where we'll be joined with Barrister Darlington via the telephone to give us his perspective on some of the questions that we posed at him concerning the stories that were read out on the World News at 12. Do stay with us. Barrister Darlington, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on the World News at 12. Can you hear me? Barrister Darlington, can you hear me? All right, we seem to be having a situation. I don't know if Barrister Darlington is on a call. We'll try to establish connection with him. One of the questions we want to ask is concerning what Ohanaeze Ndigbo chairman, that is Iwuanyanwu, actually disclosed concerning the marginalization of the Igbos. Barrister Darlington, we have you back on the line. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, son. How are you?
I am fine. Barrister Darlington, it's a Friday, but there are quite a lot of issues going on within the Nigerian polity. And of course, this is not the first time that the Igbos have been clamoring for equality when it comes to decision making, when it comes to employment opportunities in public sector, when it comes to equal access, in every location within Nigeria. And one of the persons who is actually making that statement is Iwuanyanwu. As you do know, he is the president of Ohanaeze Ndigbo, and he's saying that the federal government is marginalizing Igbos in Nigeria. He listed several instances, which include, according to him, the continued incarceration of Nnamdi Kanu, despite the fact that others too who were alleged to have committed such atrocities based on what the federal government is alleging have been freed. He's also talked about the zonal angle, the zonal partition, and he says that even railway infrastructure in Nigeria, nothing has been done. The Southeast geopolitical zone in Nigeria, according to what he stated, has gotten only 5 states, whereas other zones have between 6 and 7 states. Now, Barrister Darlington, I want to also bring to your notice that right here in Lagos, that marginalization outbreaks been observed, quite a lot of Igbo residents have complained as to how they've been treated, especially when they want to get accommodation in certain locations. The owners of those properties, if they're of a different ethnic group, literally disclose to their agents that they do not want any individual from the southeast. And it also occurs when it also comes to public employment opportunities in public sectors. What do you have to say about this?
In fact, Esther, it is terrible. Oh. It is terrible. And I've been asking the question, what wrong did the Igbos do? Esther, this thing started with 1966 coup. You can see why you should not allow yourself to be used to play propaganda game. Recent information, recent literature, recent discussions have proved that coup was not caused by the Igbos.
When you say propaganda game, why did you make that phrase? Why you should not be used for propaganda game? What does that mean?
It is because the people who committed that crime cleverly shifted it to the Igbos. Kaduna Zogu, who led that coup, he's not an Igbo man. He's from Delta. He was groomed in the house of Saduna. Saduna took him as his own son because he never had any. So that boy grew up in his court. That's why his name, Kaduna, is included in his name. The people who are playing this propaganda game forgot all this history. They forgot it all.
But Barrister, let me ask you something. Why is, according to the Federal Character Commission, why is the presidency zoned to rotate between North and South instead of rotating through 6 geopolitical zones? So must it be that power must be resident within just the North and the South? So let's say, for example, the South or the Southwest, takes leadership now, and in the next 4 years, again, it remains in this region. It means in 2027 or after 2027, it will go back to the north. So that's the continuous rotation. That's how it's going to be?
Until the rotational principle is enshrined in our constitution. All this thing that we are doing now is a gentleman agreement, though. It's not as if it's written in the constitution, no. It's a gentleman agreement that when anybody from the north to rule, the next person must come from the south. And the south means southwest, southeast, and south-south.
So you're saying there was an agreement that was had verbally. It's not within the constitution concerning the rotation of power.
It is not written anywhere in our laws. It's not. It's a gentleman agreement. Meanwhile, the southwest has taken the lion's share. They have been military head of state, they have been president, and they have been president again. The South have been there in the name of Goodluck Jonathan. But the Igbo man, with all his contribution and diligence, each time he come up, something will happen. Something will definitely happen. Buhari told us in one of his interviews, because when Shagari was in office in 1983, the agreement was after Shagari, Ekweme will take over from him, being his vice. And what's his name? Buhari said it, that, one of the reasons why they did that was that they didn't want an Igbo man to take over from Shagari. He said it. He was not even apologetical about it. The question is, what did the Igbos do wrong? Because we refuse to be intimidated. Is that not the only reason? Esther, is that not the only reason? Any other thing?
Barrister Darlington, let's
somebody, you don't like somebody, tell us what you have done wrong. Look at what the North have been doing to Nigeria since they came in. Look at what the Fulanis have been doing to Nigeria since they came into this country. Look at what they have been doing. If you want to criminalize everybody, is it not these Fulanis who have made your life uncomfortable for everybody? Yes, sir. You can see why propaganda. Don't allow it. Whenever they want to put you down, rise up and challenge it. We kept quiet for too long over this media barrage against us. We kept quiet for too long. That is why it has become like a tradition. It has become like a tradition. Somebody said that the Tafa Balewa called Igbos. I said, how, when, where? All these are propaganda. We now know that Tafawa Balewa, no bullet entered into his body. He died of asthma because of an asthmatic patient. When the commotion was going on in Lagos during the coup, the man fell down and died. These are part of the propaganda, Esther. Nobody has been able to debunk it over the years, and it has continued. You can imagine. These other people that have made life uncomfortable, please, who is supposed to be criminalized in this country, if you look at it properly? Esther, since 1960, or since Nigeria began, have you had any time the Igbos rioted and they were killing non-indigenous in their region?
Barrister Darlington, let me come in here because we're short of time. So there has been the clamor for restructuring. There's also been the implementation of the Oronsayin report. That's the confab, conference that took place during the era of, or rather the tenure of former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. Why has that particular recommendation given on that report, why has it been delayed? We thought this particular administration would fast track its implementation of the Oronsayin report. We just had the announcement of some certain ministries, departments and agencies that will be, collapsed together so to reduce the cost in governance. But since then, we haven't heard officially what ministries have been collapsed to when. We haven't heard further statements on consideration of some implementation or recommendation being stipulated in the Oronsayin report. So are we saying that it may never ever happen?
Esther, those who own Nigeria, I think they have want Tinubu not to go further with that.
Barrister Darlington, I'm not going to agree with what you just said. Nobody owns Nigeria, and Nigeria belongs to every one of us. Nobody can claim to own this country.
Esther, please, let us call it spade a spade. Let us stop pretending. Esther, there are people who can commit all manner of crime in this country.
Is it not better for us to start calling them out and begin to use platforms like this to denounce them and continue with that manner by saying they own Nigeria? They do not own Nigeria unless we allow them feel like they own Nigeria.
Are you serious? Okay, when they wanted to relocate some ministries from Abuja to Lagos, the Ministry of Aviation and that of CBN, what happened? Please, can you tell me what happened? They
made threats, but I think it's within the president's jurisdiction, the right to do whatever it is he wants to do without fear or recourse to anybody or any ethnic group. And like we said, no particular ethnic group can disclose that they own this country. They do not own this country.
Okay.
We need to continue to emphasize that they do not own this country. We cannot continue to put it on the platter that they own this country. They cannot own this country. Whoever these supposed individuals are who claim, according to you, that they own this country. But coming back to the matter of discourse, the marginalization against the Igbos that Iwuanyanwu is actually talking about, at what point will this matter be addressed?
Esther, maybe the day they got tired of misrule in Nigeria, they will now say, okay, who will help us to repair this thing? Because as I'm talking to you today, and just like I discussed in that studio this morning, we are owing over 120 trillion naira in debt, and it's still counting. So how can you make progress when you have people who just come to loot the economy? Maybe one day they will realize that the Igbos, they know how to make wealth. They know how to keep wealth. They know how to create wealth. They will not say, yeah, give us somebody. Maybe that is the only time. But right now they are not tired of looting. All
right, Barrister Darlington, before I let you go, because we have a program coming up, I want to ask you a final question.
Hold on. I must put it out here. Somebody came to rule this country for 8 years, and when he was leaving, he told us that he collected 23 trillion naira from CBN, that we should put it in our national debt and pay it. And he left. I just walked away. Tell me anybody that can do it in this country. And nobody has called his name up till now. Please, can you tell me? So what are you now saying?
Barrister
Tell me
Darlington.
one person that can try
Barrister
it
Darlington, I
in
want
this
us to
country.
look into Rivers. For example, the governor there, Simfubara, has strongly refuted claims suggesting that the state is embroiled in crisis, despite describing such narrative as false and the product of mischief makers. A lot has been going on within Rivers State. At this point in time, others have alluded that Nyesom Wike is behind it, although ever since a recent issue that took place in the local government area, we've not heard Nyesom Wike say anything. What's your take on that in a minute, please?
They are pulling the strings from behind now. It's not only wicked, the presidency is involved. Because if Tinubu actually wanted peace in River, he would have told the county chairman, please leave that place.
But Achirin Gulali has actually distanced the president for being part of the imbroglio in Rivers
Please
State.
leave what they are saying. Leave what they are saying. It's like what is going on in Kano. It's like what is going on in Kano. Was it not his national security advisor who now mobilized the security agent and brought Bayero back into the palace after he had been asked to leave? When they removed Sanusi the first time, did anything happen? The man accepted his fate and left. But this particular one now, because they are interested, because they have interest, because they are in power, look at what they are doing. They cannot deny it. After all, the Tinubu started this thing. If you have asked Wike to keep quiet and remain in Abuja, this thing wouldn't have happened. How can he exonerate Tinubu? Was he not the one that brought the 8-point agenda? Was he not the one? Why would he say that they withdraw all the cases in court and then come and settle it in his office? He exonerate too. He is directly involved in what is going on. The police that are there, who deployed them?
Barrister Darlington, we've actually run out of time. Thank you so much for taking your time to share a perspective on the world news at 12. We sincerely do appreciate your input.
Thank you, sir.
All right. To wrap up here again, other top stories. Report reveals jihadists trooping into Nigeria from Benin Republic. Aneza lists proofs that the federal government is marginalizing Igbos in Nigeria. Peter Obi slams Nigerian leadership for inaction amidst national crisis. Fubara insists Rivers is peaceful despite security concerns. And lawmaker blasts Iwuanyanwu over remarks made. That's a wrap on the world news at 12. My name is Esther Machuku. Good afternoon and thank you for listening.